The ABC 17 Stormtrack Winter Weather Special, brought to you by these fine sponsors, starts now.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for the ABC 17 Stormtrack Winter Weather Special. I'm ABC 17 Stormtrack Chief Meteorologist Sharon Ray. Ready or not, winter is nearly here, and soon enough, freezing temperatures will have us busy looking out for snow, ice, and conditions like this. We're now less than a month away from the official start of winter, and we're not expecting the mostly calm season we had in 2015. This year, we're coming into the winter months after a mild fall, but that doesn't mean we're spared from the freezing temperatures. Before we look ahead to what we can expect as we close out 2016, ABC 17 Stormtrack meteorologist Brittany Beggs shows us how past seasons can help hint at what's to come.
I'm comparing the past El Nino to La Nina years when they've been consecutive back-to-back. I'm taking a look all the way back to 1972 and 73. I'm correlating the El Nino with a positive mark and the La Nina with a negative mark. So from 72 to 74, we went back-to-back El Nino to La Nina. And again, from 97 and 98 to 98 and 99, we went from El Nino to La Nina. And again, from 2009 and 10 to 2010 and 2011, we went from El Nino to La Nina. I'm tracking this because last year we were in an El Nino pattern, and forecast models are now hinting at potential for a weak to maybe strong La Nina. And El Nino is usually when you have warmer than average temperatures across the equatorial Pacific. It's trending cooler. What this does is it changes the pressure, with high pressure building across the Gulf of Alaska that allows that polar jet stream to dip further south and allows that cooler air to come further southward. And when we have low pressure systems such as Alberta Clippers, those can track further south, bringing more snowfall to mid-Missouri, and that is what we've seen in previous years. So I'm comparing the back-to-back years. 72 and 73, that winter, we only had 14 inches of snow. This was an El Nino winter. Take a look at that average temperature, 30 degrees. Now, over the past 30 years, the average snow that we've seen in mid-Missouri, the average winter, is about 18 inches of snow with an average temperature of 32 degrees. So this El Nino year, we were actually a little bit below normal as far as temperatures go, and the following year, we picked up double the snow, around 30 inches, with an average temperature a little bit higher, near 31 degrees. Comparing 97 and 98 to 98 and 99, here's the El Nino year where we only had 7.6 inches of snow. We averaged 37 degrees that winter, and the following year, we doubled it, nearly doubled it, at 13 inches of snow with an average temperature right around 35 degrees. And then again in 2009 and 10, you can see our snowfall amounts got up to 19.5 inches of snow. That's, again, 1.5 inches above average. But this particular El Nino year, it was a little cool. We had 27.6 degrees as the average temperature, but the following year during the La Nina, we doubled that snowfall. And you can see we actually rose a degree here for that next year. So there is a correlation to this. I'm showing you this because last year we were in an El Nino and we only picked up 9 inches of snow, and we had an average temperature of 37.5 degrees. From the past data, this would tell us that this upcoming winter season, we could potentially double that snowfall, which would put us right at average, and maybe those temperatures might be comparable. What we do to look for this is from earlier this year, you can see that, again, 2.2, that indicates that the waters were 2 degrees above normal across the equatorial Pacific. Over the past few months and into spring, it trended neutral, and now it's going cooler than normal. Chief Meteorologist Sharon Ray will have more on possible snowfall projections and temperatures for this upcoming winter season.
Well, most mid-Missourians likely associate the winter season with snow, but it isn't the only type of precipitation we get here. ABC 17 Stormtrack meteorologist Ameren Morrison joins us now to break down the different types of precipitation and how they form.
When it comes to winter precipitation, the atmospheric temperature as a whole really matters when it determines what exactly is going to hit the ground. In fact, 32 degrees is the cutoff when it comes to what we're going to determine whether it's going to be snow, freezing rain, or rain. Anything below freezing in the atmosphere, we're going to be talking about the entire column is going to be snow when it hits the ground, and that's where we're going to forecast snow in the atmosphere. But you just add a very warm layer above the surface, and then we dip right below freezing when you hit the ground. That's where we're going to see the freezing rain and the potential for some ice storms across mid-Missouri. And then if you have above freezing throughout the entire layer of the atmosphere, well, that's where we're going to be dealing with some rain. It's better when you look at this through a whole column. Going ahead and pinpointing that for you, you can see with the temperatures, you have this very warm layer layer above freezing, and that's where you have that warm layer above the surface of the Earth. Anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 feet above the surface of the Earth is really where you're going to see that melting layer that's going to melt that snow. All rain starts out as snow in the upper portions of the atmosphere, but you notice as it's above freezing temperatures, that's where you're going to see the rain that hits the ground. Again, this is really where we're beginning to see the potential for some ice and some freezing rain is when you have a very small amount of warmer air above the surface, and then it freezes once you hit the surface of the ground. And that continues to see, that trend continues as we head through really the lowering that warming layer across a good portion of the atmosphere. You have a very, very small warm layer. That's where we're going to see the sleet that hits the ground and potential for some freezing rain with that as well. And again, if you have no warm layer in the atmosphere at all, that's where you're going to be dealing with the potential for some snow. Now, whether it's going to be wet or dry snow depends a lot on what's going on in the atmosphere.
Well, as you can see, the winter season comes with a slew of dangerous situations, and it's not just snow and ice that can cause conditions to turn deadly.
ABC 17's Taylor Pitchers talked to a doctor about cold temperatures and how they can impact your body.
Whether you're sledding down a hill or shoveling the driveway, you know it's going to be cold outside. But when is it too cold for our bodies?
You have to listen to your body, and you have to think about getting warm when you start to feel things get where they feel numb or they feel like they can't move as well, and definitely when you start to have pain.
Here's the average temperatures for Columbia throughout the winter months. 2 years ago, Columbia saw a wind chill of negative 32 degrees. Dr. Tara Flynn says combining those two factors can make it dangerous to be out in the cold for long periods of time.
Your response to the cold, your body often constricts the blood vessels or vasoconstriction to keep the core warm. So that's why those extremities and earlobes and nose might get more exposed.
Flynn says serious illnesses from the cold include frostbite and hypothermia. She says it's best to warm up the body slowly.
One of the precautions would be you don't want to burn that skin, so you could think about warm water instead of something that would be very hot.
Those fun outdoor winter activities can also be dangerous. Last February, a Mizzou student shattered her vertebrae and broke several ribs after crashing into a tree while sled riding. Flynn says ice also brings a lot of people to her office.
We see a lot of extremity injuries, especially to the elbow and the forearm with falls, as people may not even be able to protect themselves, or if they do reach out and try to protect themselves.
In Columbia, Taylor Pitchers, ABC 17 News.
To put it in perspective, here's a list of some of the latest statistics out from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services on cold weather deaths. You can see it appears cold weather deaths have increased in Missouri over the last 5 years, with a spike in from 2013 to 2015. 2014 is the year parts of Missouri saw some of the coldest temperatures reported in more than a decade. In Jefferson City, temperatures fell to 9 degrees below zero. To keep warm, experts say you should layer your clothes, cover extremities like your ears and fingertips, and wear a wind-resistant jacket.
Knowing what you're up against before you head out is key when it comes to winter weather. ABC 17 Stormtrack forecaster Bridget Mahoney breaks down the difference between alerts and warnings that you can expect to hear us talk about over the next few months.
A winter storm is defined as 6 inches of snow or more, a ½ inch of sleet or more, or a combination of the two, which causes life-threatening conditions as you're headed outside. Now, the National Weather Service issues different advisories, watches, and warnings. The least severe is the winter weather advisory, and that's because we only expect small amounts of snow. But still be cautious, because this can still give you significant inconveniences as you're headed outside. Now, the winter storm watch is slightly more severe, and that's because we expect winter storm conditions will arrive within the next 36 to 48 hours. So when this is issued, prepare yourself, because you have a little extra time before the storm actually arrives. The most severe of them all is the winter storm warning, and that's because life-threatening conditions are happening now or are going to happen within the next 24 hours. So make sure when this is issued, you act immediately. Regardless of which is issued, make sure you and your family has a plan to act when severe weather occurs.
We already know winter has the potential to be dangerous, but it's also expensive. Coming up, we'll tell you how the rising cost of heating is impacting mid-Missourians and how one group makes sure families stay warm in the winter. Starting this month, Ameren, Missouri customers will see a 1% increase annually, or about $6. That's thanks to a rise in the price of natural gas nationwide.
ABC 17's Sarah Massler-Donar spoke with Ameren officials about the increase and how it could have a big impact for some consumers.
Central Missouri Community Action's Angela Hirsch works with families that struggle to make ends meet. She says for those who live below the federal poverty level, even a $6 annual increase on an electric bill can be a struggle.
When you are literally counting every single penny and where it goes and how it's being spent, any increase in expense, whether it be food, clothing, gas, heating costs, have an impact on a family.
Ameren officials say they haven't had to increase natural gas prices for customers since 2014. As for other potential rate changes, officials say they'll just have to wait and see.
What I do have from our purchasing department is they do see it fairly stable, meaning they don't see any huge spikes coming, barring some unforeseen natural disaster or something like that. Of course, it'll probably move up and down a little bit, and I wish I had that crystal ball.
So families that need extra help in the coming year can apply for federal funds through a program called the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. The families will receive an average of $400 in initial energy assistance. On top of that, if a family reaches a crisis situation, it can receive about $250 more at first.
Now they can receive crisis, again, as many times up to $800 or until we run out of money.
And Ameren officials say total cost per family can also vary based on the weather and how much heat you use during the winter.
Now, Central Missouri Community Action has just short of $1.1 million in available funds this year, which is about $60,000 more than last year. Our crews also looked into ways to keep your home energy efficient and your utility bill down. To read more about some of the successful ways we tested to save you money, check out abc17news.com. We've posted a link to that information in our ABC 17 Stormtrack Winter Weather Special story posted online.
There is some good news for those who are struggling to keep up with the high cost of heating. The Missouri Public Service Commission's cold weather rule is already in effect. That means when it's below freezing, the Public Service Commission can't shut off customers' heat. Customers are still responsible for paying the cost incurred during that time, but the rule allows customers to budget out payments over 12 months. This rule is in effect through March 31st. We've nearly gone a decade now without seeing a major ice storm in mid-Missouri. Up next, our crews look into the impact of ice storms and if mid-Missouri is due for one this year. And still ahead is my long-range forecast of what's to come this winter season. Missouri is no stranger to severe ice storms. These storms can create long-lasting effects for an area depending on their severity. And 2016 marks nearly a decade since mid-Missouri has seen such a storm. But as ABC 17 Stormtrack meteorologist Aaron Morrison shows us, the gap doesn't necessarily mean we're off the hook this year.
It's been nearly 9 years since an ice storm impacted mid-Missouri. The last such event occurred during December 8th through the 10th of 2007. And caused nearly $130,000 in damage, according to information provided by the National Centers for Environmental Information. The year 2007 in general was a historic year for ice storms, as earlier that year in January, an ice storm swept through the southern half of mid-Missouri and caused over $20 million in damage. Since then, ice storms have been far and few between, and nothing like what was experienced in 2007. The Midwestern Regional Climate Center reports that the Midwest is a prime area for freezing rain and ice storms, with 4 to 5 days on average per year of seeing it, most of that occurring during the months of December and January. It's during these 2 months when the typical weather pattern sets up that is promising for freezing rain and ice storms. A low-pressure system tracks to the south of our area and pulls in cold Arctic air with temperatures below freezing. Meanwhile, a couple of thousand feet above the ground, winds out of the south pull in more warmth and moisture, keeping the temperatures through a layer of the atmosphere warm and allows precipitation to hit the ground as supercooled water, which freezes up on contact. There's no telling where or when the next ice storm will hit mid-Missouri. But since the year 2000, every year has seen an ice storm except 8, 2003, 2009 to 2012, and 2014 through today. With a lack of recent ice storms, many mid-Missourians could become complacent about what to do in case an ice storm were to impact you or your family. The Midwestern Regional Climate Center says that a 1/4 inch of ice can cause travel concerns and serious damage through downed trees and power outages, which can cripple a community. In case of a storm, flashlights are a necessity, in addition to battery-powered radios with extra batteries. Candles and matches are needed to keep flashlight use limited. Turn off all major electrical appliances. Keep refrigerator and freezer doors closed. If you use a wood stove, fireplace, or heater to stay warm, never leave it unattended and make sure it's vented properly. And as always, if you have a generator on hand, be sure that you read all instructions so as not to misuse the equipment. Now, ice accumulations become disruptive after 1/4 inch has fallen, with an infrastructure breakdown likely beyond 2 inches of ice.
Well, both the city and the state are preparing right now in case we do see ice or other winter weather in central Missouri this winter. Just in the last few days, Columbia Public Works held its annual dry snow run. The drills allow plow drivers to review safety procedures and snow routes so there's no confusion when winter weather hits. MoDOT's Central Division also recently trained for the season in Jefferson City. It activated an emergency operations center and deployed trucks along state routes like they would in the event of winter weather. And just a reminder for those in Columbia, anytime more than 2 inches of snow falls, drivers must move their vehicles off designated snow routes. This is a map of those routes. The streets marked in red are first priority city streets, and green are second priority. Blue shows streets maintained by MoDOT, and the areas you see with diagonal lines are designated priority areas. Routes in Columbia are clearly marked with red and blue signs, but if you want to look up a specific street, we've added a link to this map on our website, abc17news.com. This year, ABC 17 News has a new tool to help you keep track of winter weather and know when it's going to hit near your hometown. ABC 17 Stormtrack forecaster Emily Klaus shows us how you can use it.
With the winter weather season approaching across mid-Missouri, we have a useful tool for all of mid-Missouri to use, which is our ABC 17 Stormtrack weather app. Few key features to note. We have our radar and precipitation, as well as a radar and satellite tab. Also, something important for the winter season is a snow cover tab, so that you know how much snow to expect whenever snow is expected, as well as a wind speed and temperature tabs, because whenever the wind is higher during the winter season, usually means it's going to be much colder. A few other useful features of the Stormtrack ABC 17 Stormtrack app is the daily and hourly forecast, as well as our location tab. You can change the location to where you'll be going if you're going on a trip, as well as personalizing this app to where your home is, so that way you know when to expect the weather that is coming on the spot. And it's super easy to download. You just go to your app provider's application downloader, type in ABC 17 Stormtrack weather app, and then download it. Completely free. You're going to be good to go.
I'm tracking some changes to come this winter season compared to the last winter season. Coming up, I'll show you my long-range winter forecast and what you can expect and why. Stay tuned. This winter, La Nina is expected to be our main weather pattern. The chance of La Nina this winter does decrease as we head into the spring, as the green bars here represent more of a neutral weather pattern. But it does look like we are going to see this La Nina pattern being the main weather maker this coming winter. A typical La Nina, we often see the polar jet stream diving south more often, and that can keep that colder air to the north and moving it into the plains and to the east coast. So we tend to have cooler winters here when we have a La Nina pattern. Well, here's what we're thinking. We think the beginning of the winter is going to start off fairly mild with a wavy jet stream pattern giving us warm and cool spells and very brief cold spells with some light snow amounts for the start to winter. But as we head into the middle of winter, we think that blocking pattern is going to start to develop here, more of a La Nina pattern. And we'll see more of a polar jet stream more often, and that would give us colder weather and, of course, longer cold spells and some light snow or even ice amounts in the middle of winter. Heading into the latter part of the winter, we'll see more of a wavy pattern setting up again, but some still some cold spells will settle in. We'll also have a better chance later in the winter of seeing moderate snowfall. Overall, winter temperatures, we're expecting slightly above average in mid-Missouri, just coming in above average, but the colder than normal temperatures expected just to the north of us in the plains and to the eastern seaboard. So what is average for us? 32 degrees for the entire winter. Last winter, we were warm. We came in with 37.5 degrees. This winter, we expect to stay above above average, just a little cooler than last winter at 35 degrees. As far as the temperature breakdown, I think December will be the coldest in the last half of the month. January coming in colder than average with longer cold spells, and then February up and down temperatures, and we'll end up very close to normal here in February. As far as precipitation, well, the average snowfall over 30 years is 18 inches. Last year, we didn't quite make that. We were at 11 inches last year. This year, we think we are going to see a higher amount of snowfall, with 20 inches on average across mid-Missouri. So here's the winter precipitation forecast then. We do expect some very light snow events in December through early January, but the better chance of moderate snowfall would come in January and February. As far as ice, our better chance of an ice storm comes in late December through January. We could have a better chance of freezing rain, and we expect the overall snowfall amounts to come in at 18 to 22 inches. Well, we are expecting some busy weather months ahead, but your ABC 17 Stormtrack weather team is here to make sure you can stay safe and enjoy the winter months.
Make sure you follow us on our social media platforms to keep up with the latest weather updates, conditions, and forecasts anytime.
And if you missed any part of tonight's winter weather special, you can find the full video on our website, abc17news.com.
Thanks for joining us.
You've been watching the ABC 17 Stormtrack Winter Weather Special, brought to you by these fine sponsors.